Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name is Rob Wilson and this is the Suzuki Ignis, and today I'm going to find out if it's any good. Okay, so let's start as we usually do at the front, where we can see just how happy this little car is. Look at its big, massive eyes. It's like, ah! It's got lots of chrome and it's emulating the grille of the Jimny, which is emulating the grille of a Jeep. So this is leaning into the SUV styling. You've got your brush guards here down at the front, again, very SUV-ish. And it's quite a bluff front with a high bonnet line for a car that's this small. It's just funky. You've got fog lights as well. Anyway, the side. Here we can see the 16-inch alloy wheels. 16 inches are standard on both trim levels. You've got some massive chunky roof rails which can rock the car quite considerably. This is only a little tiny sweet light car. You've got keyless entry as well on this top spec car. You don't get on the bottom spec. But my favourite bit of the side of this car is these faux strakes here in the back, which are inspired by the Suzuki WizKid of many years ago. So that also integrates into this sharp, what BMW would call a Hofmeister kink. It's just some glass going up like that. But this, I like this. It's a chunky little car. You've got quite flared arches here as well. But let's have a look at the back, see what's going on there. At the back, you've got a continuation of that SUV chunky styling with a brush guard here at the back. It's again very upright and bluff and SUV-ish. These are the badges for determining the powertrain in this vehicle. All Suzukis in the UK are now hybrid as standard, so that is designating that. And then below that is the interesting badge because it says all grip, because you can get this Ignis with all-wheel drive if you want to. So that is a genuine SUV characteristic trait of this vehicle. It will probably go a bit further than your normal city car. But let's open up the boot, because you've got 204 litres of space in this all-wheel drive version, because it has some gubbins going on under there. If you get the normal front-wheel drive version, it's 267 litres. And if you fold the seats down, which is relatively easy to do, you have about 500 litres of space in there. One thing to note, as you can probably see, is there's no false floor, so there is a bit of a bump to get stuff over. You couldn't necessarily push stuff all the way to the back. But none of this car's rivals really have that. The Up's not on sale anymore. That was the only one that had it. The Aygo Cross or X, that doesn't have a raised boot floor either. And the Kia Picanto and Hyundai i10 are not really in this bracket. They're more just for city use. Anyway, let's go and sit in those back seats and see if all 6'2" of me fit. So in the back, to answer my question, yes, I actually do fit. This seat is in my driving position, as I said, 6'2", 188 centimeters tall. I couldn't put my knees behind the seat in front, but I can put them either side. And because this is only sold as a 4-seater, it means my legs aren't going to be knocking into my passenger in the back here. In terms of features, there aren't really many. This is a city car. It doesn't need to or isn't supposed to have loads of fancy stuff back here. But things you do have are a net on the back of the front passenger seat. You've got Isofix, so you can put a child seat, and the doors open really wide, nearly 90 degrees, so it'll be nice and easy to fit one of those. You do have a bottle holder in the doors. It just about squeezes a bottle this size in, and there is a cup holder here in between the front seats, so if the bottle doesn't fit in there, it will fit in that one because it's a bit bigger. But if you had kids in the back of here, the windows are a nice size. The main plus point is the size back here. I don't have this much room in an Aygo Cross, not even close. I don't have this much room in a Kia Picanto or a Hyundai i10. So if you're looking for space in this segment of the market, the Ignis is by far the roomiest. So let's go and have a look up front and see what's going on up there. Okay then, so up front, main thing to talk about is just how refreshingly back to basics and honest this car is. You've got a 7-inch screen here in the middle. You can have your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on both specs. You don't have to go for the top one. Although with the top spec, you do get inbuilt sat-nav as standard. Wouldn't really recommend using that. No in-car infotainment is as good as using your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Below that, you've got physical controls for your climate, so you can up the temperature or the fan speed using these toggle switches here. Below that, you've got switches for turning on your aircon, your front and rear heated screens, and changing the direction of the airflow. And then below that, we've got some charging ports. So you've got a traditional 12-volt one on this side, and then a USB-A or aux connection. Now that is a throwback. There aren't many cars with those anymore. And then you've got your safety and off-road buttons here as well. So your front collision warning, your lane keep assist. Then you've got your hill descent control, and then an off-road button as well, because as I mentioned, this car is all-wheel drive. In front of me, I have traditional analog dials for the rev counter on the left, the speed in the middle, and then I have a screen on the right hand side which can show me things like my instant MPG, or because this car is hybrid, it can show me where the power is coming from in the car, if it's the petrol engine, if the batteries are recouping some energy as well. So let's talk about the practical elements up front. The bottle of water fits much better up here. These door pockets are a lot bigger, and it can just about squeeze in the center as well. There's a space down here for your mobile phone to go when you've connected it up to your screen. You've got a manual gearbox in this version. The all-wheel drive top spec car is only available with a manual. You can option a CVT automatic, but I wouldn't recommend doing that because CVT. Then you've got a glove box here, which isn't damped, but it does come with a lovely bag with your servicing and all of your manual in there as well. And that lives on its own little shelf out of the way, so the rest of the glove box is actually useful. And then generally, the interior of this car is quite funky and different and interesting. You've got this white bit in the middle, which breaks up the sea of black plastic. It's more interesting than the Aygo Cross in that regard. You've got some weird faux carbon fibre around the outer vents, which I'm not 100% convinced by, but it's there. And then you've got on your steering wheel your usual volume, track, C, commute buttons. You can answer your telephone, and then on the right hand side you've got your cruise control functions, which again is only available on the top spec. Little design treat, you've got the WizKid things here that are on the back quarter of the car as well. Anyway, that's probably enough talking about inside, so I think what we should do now is go and drive it and see what it's like on the road. Right, okay then, so out on the road in the Suzuki Ignis. And first thing I guess I'll talk about are the stats associated with this car. So we've got a 1.2 litre hybrid engine. The engine is obviously at the front under the bonnet, but the batteries are actually under the front passenger seat, the lithium ion pack that forms the hybrid part of the powertrain, and that works in a conventional hybrid sense. It doesn't matter which spec you go for, you get the same engine, which is 83 brake horsepower and 107 Newton meters of torque. Now, it's not exactly the fastest car in the world. 0 to 60 takes around 12.7, 12.8 seconds, depending on if you go for the all-wheel drive like this one or the normal front-wheel drive version. But what will differ is the fuel economy. So on the front-wheel drive version, fuel economy is rated at around 57, 58 miles to the gallon on the WLTP cycle, but on the all-wheel drive version, that drops down a little bit to 52, 53 miles to the gallon. I've been driving around in this Ignis for a week. This is the all-wheel drive version, and I've got on my screen right now an average of 45.2 miles to the gallon. So not the 52 miles to the gallon that they claim, but not far off. That's pretty good, especially for me. I'm not exactly the slowest driver in the world. And then generally on the road, the manners of the Ignis. Well, it is a small, it's very, very light car, less than a ton even, the all-wheel drive version with the hybrid in there as well. It's not a lot of mass to move around. The handling is absolutely fine for this class. The only thing I would say is if you're on a motorway, then because of the lightness, it does have a tendency to be maybe washed about a bit by larger vehicles and trucks, but that's the same for all of this car's rivals anyway. The gearbox is pleasant enough to use. It's a 5-speed, it's nothing special, but it's not bad either. And while the steering rack may be a little slow compared to some of the other cars in this class, it's perfectly direct, and you always know what the car's doing, which is the main thing. The main selling point of this car is the fact that you can get it with that all-wheel drive system, so it actually becomes semi-useful if you live in a rural location. And because it's nice and small, it's proportioned well, it's actually ideal for British country roads, B roads. If you live in a hamlet or a village in the middle of nowhere, but you don't want, you know, a full off-roader, you don't want to drive around in a pickup truck that might be too wide, you definitely don't want a Land Rover because that'll be too wide. So if you're in those locations and you want something that's small, efficient, but doesn't, you know, lack the all-wheel drive, this is basically your only option now. And I have to say, it's not a bad option at all. It's actually quite a fun little car to drive around in, but it has that added security. The engine can be a tad noisy if you're really revving it out, but most of the time, I think helped by the hybrid system, it's reasonably quiet. There's no more road noise or wind noise coming into the cabin than in any of this car's rivals. It's on par with them for that. And it's reasonably comfortable to sit in. As I say, I've been driving around in it for a week and I haven't had backache or I haven't felt uncomfortable. What I will do is talk quickly about pricing on this car. So the base front-wheel drive car starts at just under £18,000, and then it's quite simple after that because Suzuki basically charge you £1,000 if you want an automatic CVT, so that would make the base car just under £19,000. Or if you go up to this SZ5 spec, it's £1,000 premium for that. And then again, if you wanted to go for the CVT automatic, that would be £1,000 premium. If you wanted to go for the all-wheel drive, that's £1,000 premium. So basically, this car that I'm in now, the top spec with the all-wheel drive, is just shy of £20,000, which for a small car might sound like a lot, but really in today's market, it isn't. And it's got the USP of being the only small all-wheel drive car that you can get nowadays in this country. So it justifies its price. Around town, it's easy to drive. As I said, it's a small car, it's got a small footprint, it's easy to place on the road. You've got a nice high seating position, a lot higher than you would have in other cars, so you can see over the cars in front of you. But also, if you do live in a rural location, it's helping you have that line of sight if the road is, you know, hedge lined and you can't necessarily see. If you're in a low down city car, this sits a lot higher than any of its contemporary rivals, so it's going to be a lot better for those kind of situations. Anyway, that's probably enough nattering on from me, so let's go back and I'll do a conclusion. So there we go, that is the Suzuki Ignis tested, and its main rival, as we've just talked about, being the Aygo Cross, or X depending on how you want to say it. Is it better? Yes. It's faster, it's as fuel efficient, it's available with four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, so it's not a pretender like the Aygo X/Cross. And I think it looks better. It actually genuinely looks like quite a cutie little off-roader thing. And there's more space inside. It's better in every way. So there you go. If you are after an all-wheel drive small car, this is literally your only option, and it's quite good. So if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, comment down below, let me know your thoughts on the Ignis, and most importantly, please do subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss an upload. If you want to support the channel, we've got many different ways to do that. You can become a member, you can buy some merch, you can give thanks, do all of those things. It would be lovely. Thank you. And I shall see you next time. Goodbye.